From the Middle East, I wonder if this would have happened 5 years ago if I could tell you what country I was in the Middle East, but nobody wants their name known, not to the rest of the world, but to the Middle East, because they are so afraid of reprisals from the Taliban, from now a reconstituted Al-Qaeda and ISIS. And I don't think anybody trusts America anymore. I know I don't recognize my country anymore. It's embarrassing. Richard Grenell is with us. He was the former director of national intelligence. I love this guy. Richard, how are you, sir?
Thanks for having me. I'm really a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. What can you tell us on what's going on?
You know, it's very frustrating because what is really important for our listeners to understand right now is that what is happening was not an intelligence failure. Everyone should feel very good about the fact that the U.S. government, the intelligence officers, the people you pay to join the Foreign Service of the United States and go work in our embassies overseas, our military, they reported they saw the rise of the Taliban early. This was being reported in May of this year as out of control, certainly, but even before May, we could see that the Taliban was going to take advantage of the Biden administration. It's important to remember that this was not an intelligence failure, but a political failure. The political class in Washington, D.C. ignored the warnings.
Let me push back on you just to play devil's advocate. Not that I believe any of this, but Biden will say, well, that was just one of many voices. And of course there were voices that said it, but everybody really said that it was going to be fine.
Well, I think the reality is that that's not true. There were plenty of warnings from state and intelligence officials, and let's just be Scotty Miller, who was in charge of Bagram. He warned Biden directly and Jake Sullivan directly. I have this as fact. He warned that if you shut down Bagram and you take away the 2,500 troops, you will quickly have 5,000 NATO troops follow you in leaving. This will be a disaster. The Taliban will see this as their opportunity, and you won't be able to respond. Now, look, in the Trump administration, let's remember, Glenn, that on January 20th of this year, Donald Trump handed Joe Biden a stable Afghanistan, a functioning embassy at U.S. Embassy Kabul, and a Taliban that was deathly afraid of getting bombed if they took over a city. The problem is not talking to the Taliban. The problem comes in what the Taliban hears. And what the Taliban heard under Donald Trump is, we cannot reconstitute. We cannot go forward and take over a city. We will get bombed. And obviously, once Joe Biden took office, the Taliban completely had a different calculus. They did not hear that. They started to take city by city, and nothing happened. That encouraged them to take over the whole country. Our troops were withdrawn before we evacuated the embassy. Look, I don't say this lightly, but for a Secretary of State to sit in cabinet meetings and allow the military to leave Afghanistan before State Department employees are evacuated, that is abandoning State Department officials, Foreign Service officers, good Americans. We should not allow this to happen. The Secretary of State should resign in disgrace for allowing the military troops to leave before we evacuated the embassy. The Foreign Service officers in these embassies, they don't carry guns. They're looking for political solutions. They're doing applications for immigrants who want to get out. These are frontline workers for the United States of America, and pushing our good brand. They don't have guns. They are not equipped in a hostile situation. They should be protected. Otherwise, if they're not going to be protected, they should be evacuated. And they weren't. This is shameful. I've spent 10 years at the State Department, and I'm outraged that this happened to the State Department employees.
Richard, I don't understand what's happening at the State Department. We have planes on the ground. The Nazarene Fund, which is a charity that I started years ago, it has become this very, very competent charity. We operate all over the world. We have now, as of today, I think we're $3,000 shy of $30 million. We have all the planes. We have very competent people working in Kabul with the generals and everybody at the airport. We have the ability to move thousands of people, but we can't get the State Department to do anything. Everything with the State Department is like pulling teeth. And now they're not giving I don't remember what it is, but the permission for these other countries to take these people. We have countries that want to take these people, and they won't give us any of the documentation, any of the work. They're all fully vetted everything. What is happening?
Well, let me tell you one thing that's happening is that the paperwork processing and a lot of the language skills for the State Department are done by what we call local employed staff. LES is how they call it. And the locally employed staff are Afghans. They have now been told by the Taliban that they cannot leave the country. They will be targeted because they worked for the American embassy. These people are in grave danger, and the State Department has not allowed them, the locally employed staff who have worked with Americans for decades, to not be evacuated. The Taliban is not letting them out, and the U.S. military, the Biden administration, is not demanding that these locally employed folks get evacuated. So they are in hiding, Glenn. Their lives are now in danger. We do not have a functioning embassy. And people are outraged by this. When the military leaves, you can't expect the State Department to stay in a hostile zone.
Who's responsible for this?
Well,
who's pulling the strings at the State Department?
I blame Secretary Blinken's weakness for not standing up in a cabinet meeting. I've been in cabinet meetings, and it's a lively discussion, and decisions are being made. And if you are not at the table defending your agency, then you are doing a disservice to your employees. Clearly, Secretary Blinken and Wendy Sherman, the Deputy Secretary of State, allowed these decisions to be made where the military would be evacuated and their State Department employees would not be taken care of. How is that possible? I have no idea. But we do know, when you talk about strings being pulled, we do know that when Susan Rice was the National Security Advisor for Barack Obama, her two deputies, one was Tony Blinken, our current Secretary of State, and the other was Avery Haynes, our current Director of National Intelligence. Both the intelligence agencies and the State Department are led by Susan Rice deputies. Susan Rice is pulling the strings. She has the title of Domestic Policy Advisor. No one in America believes she's working on Medicare policy.
What is it that we can do? I've talked to so many senators and congressmen, and they're all screaming bloody murder. What is it that we can do? Because once they leave office, once they leave the airport, all these people are going to be slaughtered, Richard, just slaughtered.
It is. Americans are going to be held hostage if we don't get this right. And I think that what we can do, first of all, we have very poor choices right now. We are in a corner. We have a variety of really bad.
But wait. Wait. If I'm president of the United States and you come into me and this is going on, I say, I'm going to airlift, 10,000 Marines, and I'm going to clear that damn area out and get our people out. Isn't that an option?
That is absolutely an option. That's a dangerous option, but it is an option that I think we have to look at because all resources should be used, the U.S. government resources, to get Americans out. My point is we're in a very bad situation with terrible options, which are forcing our hand to go in and, in a messy situation, try to clear areas in order to get to the Americans. This is causing our American men and women who work in the military to go into an unnecessary conflict zone. They shouldn't be having to do this. And yet we find ourselves in this situation. But I think what we have to be able to do is articulate very clearly, as people who have access to the media and social media, everybody on this hearing our voices needs to articulate, get the Americans home and get them home soon.
Okay, Richard, can you hold with me for just 5 more minutes? Because I want to put you in that briefing room, and I'm the president of the United States, and I want you to advise me and tell me what you would be telling the president today. I'm going to put myself in the role of a really scary president, I think, for most people. I'll put myself in president. You're the advisor, and coming at this, the first thing I would say to you is, Richard, I am smoking mad at the State Department. Are you telling me that this isn't the State Department's fault? This is the military's fault?
Well, if you're the president and we're in this situation, first I'm going to say, no, sir, it's your fault. You have made really poor choices. If this was Donald Trump, I wouldn't have to be in this position. But let's just say that it's a generic president, because I'm not going to be working for Joe Biden. But let's say that it's a generic president, and we found ourselves in this situation. I would go in and I would say, Mr. President, you must instruct the Secretary of Defense immediately to do whatever it takes to airlift Americans out immediately. Send as many planes in as you can, both at Bagram and at the Kabul airport. I don't buy any of this that we can't land in Bagram. You can tell the Taliban we're landing and we're going to bomb anybody that comes close to our planes. And then you instruct the Secretary of State to get all of the Americans to either place, and you make sure that we have an accurate list of everybody who is an American and who has been approved, and they will get out either through Kabul or through Bagram.
How do you support that? Because we're not alone in trying to get people out. How do you support those private organizations that are also trying to get people out?
Well, look, it's the Americans first at this point. You've got to get the Americans out. If you're an American, if you have an American passport, or you are a locally employed staff member with an American ID, American government-issued ID, then you will be on that list and that you can get out. By the way, I don't buy any of this that Secretary Blinken doesn't know the exact number. Of course he knows the exact number. It's hard to know how many Americans are in Germany, but it's really easy to know how many Americans are in a conflict zone like Afghanistan. People don't move to Afghanistan as Americans and not stay connected to the embassy. That's just not reality.
How many are we going to leave behind, Richard, the way we're going now?
I pray to God every day 0, because if we leave anyone behind, that is a hostage situation. And again, I don't understand how the Secretary of State of the United States could sit in cabinet meetings and allow these decisions to unfold, leaving Americans behind. This is the job of the Secretary of State. And I can tell you that the Foreign Service, I've worked at the State Department for 10 years. I know many Foreign Service officers who voted for Joe Biden who are furious with what is happening at the State Department. There are calls for for Secretary of State Blinken and Deputy Secretary of State Wendy Sherman to resign in disgrace from the Foreign Service. These people are outraged that they are being tagged as sloppy or bureaucratic or unable to do their jobs.
Richard, we have about 40 seconds to answer this. How badly damaged is our relationship with Great Britain and Germany and France, all of our allies?
Well, look, I have to say, as knowing Chancellor Merkel fairly well, negotiating with her for a long time, they wanted Joe Biden. The international community wanted Joe Biden. They wanted a United States that wasn't heavy-handed and didn't lead and allowed them to do what they wanted. And so, they've made this bet in some ways. They helped elect Joe Biden.
Richard Grenell, former acting director of National Intelligence. Always great to talk to you, sir. Stay safe. Thank you.